Hello, it's Leah, Busby and Travis Denham here, and we're doing another weekly update.
Correct.
So today we are going to do an update on what's happening behind the scenes. So you understand if you put an offer in on a property or if you're selling a property, what's happening in the background. We're going to do it in two different episodes. So week one we'll talk and I'll ask Travis what happens for him as a real estate agent when someone puts an offer on a property, just so if you are the one that's put the offer in, you understand what's going on in the background. Yeah. And then next week we're going to do an update of what's happening in the background of a home loan when an offer's been accepted. So Trav, you obviously have a whole pile of properties on the market all the time. Yep. So what happens, you have an open inspection, you get 20 groups through, which is your ultimate goal to create a bidding war. Yep. And then the offers get submitted. Tell our clients what's happening in the background, what conversations you're having, what's the process to get the number right, and what are you looking at with those offers and those conversations to get someone, to help my clients buy a house, basically.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will talk about the price that they've offered on a property, and they'll say, oh, well, I've offered this amount, I've offered $650, and how come it ended up selling for $640? Because after a property sells and settles, a buyer can look up what it sold for. But what we consider when considering an offer is there's four main parts to it. There's obviously the offer amount, which is super important. There's also the settlement time frame. Sometimes I meet people that have sold a house, they've got 42 days to be out of that house and there's no flexibility there. And sometimes that just doesn't fit in with what we're trying to do for the vendors. Then there's deposit amount. We touched on this in one of our earlier videos about how we like a healthier deposit. And then it's the conditions, and they can be, simple as subject to finance or subject to sale, but there can be other conditions subject to the owner removing a spa pool and repaving an area. Some buyers can introduce, tricky conditions. Yeah. So when we're in a situation where we get multiple offers, the first part of it is me negotiating with those offers to get them to the best that they can, because I hear stories of buyers that say, like this literally happened this week. A friend of mine had a dealing with an agent, doesn't matter who the agent was. They were really, really disappointed. They put an offer in, 2 days later, rang the agent to say, what's happening? And the agent had said, oh no, we'd sold it.
Yeah.
And they put their initial offer in expecting, because half the buyers come to me and go, there's my offer, that's it. The other half expect the game, the back and forth. It's negotiating, it's what we do for a living. So the sad thing in that instance is that buyer looked it up after it settled and it sold for less than they would have gone. So I guess maybe that was agent just probably didn't push them hard enough. But they're the main things. When it comes to finance, what we'll do, and you and I know because we've had crossover clients, now obviously everything's confidential, like you can't disclose their confidential information, but we will dig a little deeper on their finance to find out who they're going through, to find out, can we speak to your broker, find out their level of confidence, whether it's pre-approved, what kind of pre-approval, like how you said, some pre-approvals aren't even really a pre-approval, if that makes sense. So I guess that's the kind of stuff that we generally do. Yeah.
And when you are submitting those offers to your vendor, you're saying, right, I've spoken to this client, they've got finance pre-approved with Blackfish, I've spoken to Blackfish and they're good to go, they just need evaluation.
Correct.
Versus, I've spoken to these guys, they haven't been to a bank yet.
Yeah.
So the more
Massive
information
difference
on the offer, the better, on the offer form, the better, because you can tell your vendor and help choose the client that you think is going to be the best outcome.
Correct. And also, gone are the days of a buyer saying to me, oh no, we spoke to the bank last year and it'll be fine. We can't really accept that anymore with all the changes that have happened. Yeah. And in that instance, sometimes we'll get them to speak to you just to pre-qualify them for us. Because a lot of times they don't want to disclose their personal and sensitive financial information to me. I don't really mind. So long as somebody I know and trust has given me that assurance that we're not going to run into problems with finance. Because it can be a horrible situation if you give them 3 weeks to get finance approval. We get to the end of that, they ask for a bit of an extension, and then it's a month later the deal's fallen over. Yeah. So doing that due diligence at the start is what makes all the difference.
Okay, that's excellent. So, and certainly we do recommend to our clients when you're putting an offer, you put in your purchase price, 30-day settlement negotiable, subject to finance, pre-approved with Leah at Blackfish. Our clients copy us in, so you can see that communication's happening and that teamwork's happening. Then what happens in the background? So you think about our clients that only buy a property, either first home buyers, and people generally, unless they're investing, only buy a couple of houses in their lifetime. Yeah. So their offer's accepted. Then what happens?
Yeah, great. Yeah. So we get them in. We get them to sign the contract. Nowadays we do have the ability with DocuSign that we don't actually have to get them in. We prefer to, because that because it's a big, we understand it's a very big deal buying a property, whether it's your first, second, third, it's still a major life event. So we like to walk the clients through so they know what's happening. Get them in, get them to sign the contract, sign the Form 1s, arrange any building inspections or things like that to happen usually in that cooling off period, which is 2 business days from when the contract's signed and the Form 1's served. So we'll liaise with the buyer and the vendor through that process. Once we've completed cooling off period, obviously the buyer pays the deposit into our trust account. Now that's a refundable deposit if one of the conditions that we put in the contract aren't met. And then we move ahead looking for finance approval or subject sale or whatever we need to from there.
And your team's keeping in contact, obviously from our end, we're always getting updating agents and letting them know. So you then would let a valuer through. So most clients, even when they've got finance pre-approval, need a valuation done. Your team then, so the vendor, we need to get someone in to the property.
We liaise with the bank valuer. It's not usually the bank. It's obviously a separate company. They'll come to us. We'll organise to get them through. We'll give them a copy of the contract, any sales figures or stats they need, and then usually within a few days to a week from there, we then get finance approval from people like yourself.
Perfect. Okay, that's good. So, like we said, next week we'll talk about it. So, what's happening on the other end? So, when clients are making an offer and we start dealing with the real estate agent, what's involved? But we just thought we'd give you a bit of insight, what's happening in the background, so you understand the process, the conversations, and to help you buy and sell property easier. And
obviously, if there's anything you're not sure on from this and you need any more clarification, give me a call or give Leah a call. We're obviously always happy to help.
Well, yeah, and actually, even if we're not helping you directly, so if I'm not your finance broker or Travis isn't the agent, we're still happy to give you some advice. We think it's better for the whole industry. So have a good day. Thanks for tuning in again.
Thanks.
We'll see you soon.
See you.